The fleet arrives. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of the massive warship Dominion, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green planet looked peaceful, almost innocent. Behind him, 1,000 ships of the Galactic Empire stretched across space like a metal storm. "Such a small world," muttered Captain Kor, his second in command. "Hard to believe these humans have caused us so much trouble." Vex nodded slowly. For months, human ships had been attacking Empire trade routes. These strange beings from a forgotten corner of the galaxy had somehow learned to fight. They used old weapons and basic ships, but they fought with a fury that made even veteran Empire soldiers nervous. "The reports from our scouts seem impossible," Kor continued, reading from his datapad. "They say humans fight without fear. They ram their ships into ours rather than surrender. Some even fight after taking wounds that would kill any civilized being." "Primitive species often fight desperately when cornered," Vex replied. "Today we end their rebellion. One show of force, and they will kneel like all the others." The Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had perfected the art of invasion. First, they would destroy all military targets from orbit. Then they would land troops to secure major cities. Finally, they would install a new government that served the Empire. It usually took a few days at most. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the planet," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The screen flickered, showing a middle-aged human in a simple military uniform. The man had gray hair and calm eyes. He sat behind a plain desk in what looked like an underground bunker. "I am General Stone of Earth Defense Command," the human said. "You have entered our solar system without permission. Leave now, and no harm will come to you." Several officers on the bridge laughed. Kor shook his head in disbelief. Did this primitive just threaten us? Vex smiled coldly. "Human, you are speaking to Admiral Vex of the Galactic Empire. We have come to bring order to your world. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." General Stone's expression did not change. "Admiral, you have made a mistake. This is your only warning. Turn your ships around and leave our system immediately." "Or what?" Vex demanded. "Or you will discover why the rest of the galaxy leaves Earth alone." The transmission ended. Vex stared at the empty screen for a moment, then turned to his crew. "Typical human arrogance. Begin the attack. Target all military installations, communication centers, and major cities. Show them the price of defying the Empire." "Sir," the weapons officer called out, "we are detecting some kind of energy buildup on the planet's surface. Multiple locations. Primitive planetary defenses," Vex said with a wave of his hand. "Nothing that can threaten ships of this size. Continue the attack." But as the Empire fleet moved into attack formation, something was happening on Earth that they could not understand. In hidden bunkers across the planet, humans were making final preparations. They moved with calm efficiency, following plans they had hoped never to use. "All stations report ready," came a voice over General Stone's communicator. Stone looked at the screens around him, showing the massive alien fleet approaching Earth. For a moment, he thought about all the years of preparation, all the resources that had gone into this moment. Then he thought about his daughter, safe in the deep bunkers with the other civilians. "Initiate Project Hammer," he said quietly. Across Earth, hidden installations came online. Ancient human technology, based on principles the Empire had long forgotten, began to charge. The aliens had made the same mistake that many others had made before them. They assumed that a species that looked primitive was actually primitive. Humans had been preparing for this day for decades. They had studied every Empire ship that had ever crashed in their territory. They had analyzed Empire weapons, Empire shields, Empire tactics, and they had built something that the Empire, in all their arrogance, would never expect. The Empire fleet was now in perfect formation, exactly where Earth's defenders wanted them. Admiral Vex stood proudly on his bridge, confident in his victory. In just a few minutes, he would begin the bombardment that would break human resistance forever. He had no idea that in underground facilities across Earth, humans were counting down the final seconds. The invasion that was supposed to last days was about to end in minutes, but not the way Admiral Vex expected. The countdown reached 0. The hammer falls. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Empire's sensor arrays. Warning lights began flashing across every ship in the fleet as their instruments detected massive energy spikes from Earth's surface. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out, his voice tight with confusion. "I'm reading impossible energy levels from the planet. Whatever they're doing down there, it's beyond our scale measurements." Admiral Vex frowned and moved to look at the readings himself. The numbers made no sense. No primitive world should be able to generate this kind of power. "Check the sensors. There must be an error." "Sir, all sensors confirm. The energy buildup is real, and it's focused on our position." Before Vex could respond, space around the Empire fleet began to change. The stars themselves seemed to bend and twist. Reality rippled like water as something fundamental shifted in the fabric of spacetime. "What is happening?" Captain Kor demanded, gripping his command chair as the ship began to shake. On Earth, General Stone watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Project Hammer is operating at full power," reported his chief scientist, Dr. Mills. "All targets are locked." "What exactly are we hitting them with?" asked Colonel West, Stone's aide. Dr. Mills adjusted his glasses nervously. "Localized gravitational distortion fields. We're creating artificial gravity wells around each of their ships. Imagine trying to fly while someone keeps changing which way is down." The technology was based on research that had taken human scientists 50 years to perfect. While the Empire had focused on bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had learned to manipulate the forces that held the universe together. They had turned physics itself into a weapon. In space, the Empire fleet was coming apart. Ships that had dominated dozens of worlds found themselves helpless against an enemy they could not see or understand. The artificial gravity wells were pulling their vessels in different directions at once. Metal groaned and snapped as massive warships were torn apart by forces that should not exist. "Shields are useless," shouted the defensive systems officer aboard the Dominion. "Whatever they're using, it passes right through our barriers." Admiral Vex watched in horror as ship after ship in his fleet was crushed or scattered into pieces. Some vessels were stretched like rubber until they snapped. Others were compressed into balls of twisted metal and plasma. A few simply vanished as they were pulled into gravitational fields so intense that space and time folded around them. "Return fire. Destroy the planet," Vex ordered desperately. But the Empire's weapons could not function properly in the distorted space around Earth. Energy beams curved back on themselves. Missiles spun wildly off course. Even the most advanced targeting systems failed when the laws of physics kept changing from second to second. "Sir, we've lost contact with 70% of the fleet," reported the communications officer, his voice shaking. "The ships that are still responding report massive casualties and system failures." Captain Kor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red dots representing destroyed Empire ships were disappearing faster than he could count them. "This is impossible. They're just primitives with chemical rockets and metal weapons." "Not anymore," General Stone said softly, though no one in space could hear him. He watched the destruction through Earth's deep space telescopes with mixed emotions. He felt no joy in the killing, but he knew it was necessary. The Empire had given Earth no choice. "How long can we maintain this?" he asked Dr. Mills. "The power requirements are enormous," the scientist replied, checking his instruments. "We can hold full intensity for maybe 10 more minutes. After that, we'll need to reduce power or risk burning out the generators. Will 10 minutes be enough?" Dr. Mills looked at the tactical display, where Empire ships continued to die by the dozens. "At this rate, there won't be an Empire fleet left in 5 minutes." He was right. The 1,000 ships that had come to conquer Earth were being destroyed faster than anyone had thought possible. The Empire's military doctrine was based on overwhelming firepower and superior technology. They had never faced an enemy that could simply ignore their advantages and attack them with the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Admiral Vex made one last desperate attempt to save his fleet. All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Retreat immediately. But the gravitational distortions that were tearing his ships apart also made hyperspace travel impossible. The Empire fleet was trapped in normal space, helpless before humanity's ultimate weapon. They could only watch as their mighty armada was reduced to floating debris in a matter of minutes. The invasion of Earth was ending, but not at all as the Empire had planned. The hunters become hunted. Of the 1,000 ships that had come to destroy Earth, only 12 survived the first attack. These were the fastest vessels in the Empire fleet, and their captains had been quick enough to retreat to the edge of the solar system when they realized what was happening. Admiral Vex was not among the survivors. His flagship Dominion had been one of the first ships caught in the gravitational storm. The massive vessel had been compressed into a sphere barely 50 meters across, taking its entire crew with it. Captain Kor now commanded what remained of the Empire's invasion force from the light cruiser Swift Strike. He stared at the tactical display in shock, watching debris from his former fleet drift slowly around Earth. Nearly 50,000 Empire soldiers and crew members had died in less than 6 minutes. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." Kor almost ordered him to ignore it, but curiosity won. "Put it through." General Stone appeared on the screen again. He looked tired but determined. "Captain Kor of the Swift Strike, this is General Stone. I am prepared to discuss terms for your surrender." "You know my name?" Kor asked, surprised. "We know quite a bit about your empire, Captain. We've been preparing for this day for a very long time. Your choice is simple. Surrender now and live, or try to escape and join the rest of your fleet in death." Kor looked around his bridge at his surviving crew members. They were all staring at him with fear in their eyes. These were veteran soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. "What do you want?" Kor asked finally. "First, you will order your remaining ships to shut down all weapons and defensive systems. Then you will provide us with complete information about Empire military capabilities, fleet positions, and planned operations. In return, you and your crews will be treated according to the rules of war. And if we refuse?" Stone's expression hardened. "Then we will demonstrate that our defensive capabilities can also be used offensively. Your ships are still within range of our gravitational weapons." Kor felt cold fear run down his spine. If humans could project those impossible forces across the solar system, then nowhere was safe. "I need time to consider your terms." "You have 5 minutes, Captain." The transmission ended, leaving Kor alone with an impossible decision. As an Empire officer, he was expected to fight to the death rather than surrender. But as a practical soldier, he knew that his remaining ships could not possibly escape or fight back against an enemy that could control gravity itself. "Sir," his tactical officer spoke up hesitantly, "our long-range sensors are detecting movement from Earth. They're launching something." On the main screen, dozens of small objects were rising from Earth's surface. They looked like simple metal cylinders, barely the size of fighter craft. But after what had just happened to the Empire fleet, Kor was not about to underestimate human technology. "What are those things?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. They're moving faster than any ship in our database. Current trajectory suggests they're heading directly for us." Kor realized with growing horror that humanity was not content to simply defend their world. They were going on the attack. "Time to reach our position." At current speed, approximately 30 minutes. That gave Kor a choice. Surrender now and hope the humans kept their word, or try to run and probably die like the rest of his fleet. He thought about his family back on the Empire homeworld, about his duty as an officer, about the thousands of crew members under his command who were looking to him for leadership. On Earth, General Stone watched the launch of humanity's hunter-killer drones with satisfaction. Each cylinder contained the same gravitational manipulation technology that had destroyed the invasion fleet, but in a mobile package. If the surviving Empire ships tried to run, they would not get far. "General," Dr. Mills said, "we're receiving surrender signals from 11 of the 12 remaining ships. And the 12th, the light cruiser Swift Strike, is still considering options." Stone nodded. "Give Captain Kor one more minute to decide. After that, the drones will make the decision for him." In space, Kor stared at the approaching human weapons and made his choice. He had seen what happened to those who underestimated humanity. He would not make the same mistake as Admiral Vex. "All ships, this is Captain Kor," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "Power down all weapons and defensive systems. We surrender to Earth forces." The invasion was over. But for the Galactic Empire, the real nightmare was just beginning. The message. 3 days after the failed invasion, Captain Kor sat in a comfortable but secure room on Luna Base, humanity's military headquarters on Earth's moon. Across from him sat General Stone and Dr. Mills, along with several other human officers. The interrogation had been going on for hours, but it felt more like a conversation between equals than the harsh questioning Kor had expected. "Your empire has conquered over 300 worlds," Stone was saying, reviewing notes on his tablet. "That's impressive, but also troubling. Tell me, Captain, how many of those worlds fought back effectively?" Kor thought carefully before answering. "Perhaps a dozen put up serious resistance. Most surrendered after the first demonstration of our power. And those that fought back, we eventually wore them down through superior numbers and technology. It usually took months, sometimes years, but the Empire always won in the end." Dr. Mills leaned forward with interest. "What made those worlds different from the ones that surrendered quickly?" "They had strong military traditions, pride. Some had technologies we hadn't seen before, though nothing that could match our fleet power." Kor paused, then looked directly at Stone. "But none of them had anything like what you used against us. How is such technology even possible?" Stone exchanged glances with Dr. Mills before answering. "Captain, what do you know about human history?" "Very little. Empire intelligence classified your species as primitive based on your apparent technology level. That was your first mistake," Stone said. "Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've had to become very good at it to survive. When we first detected Empire ships in our territory 50 years ago, we knew this day would come." 50 years. Kor was surprised. "We only became aware of your species 2 years ago. We've been watching you far longer than you've been watching us. We studied your tactics, your technology, your psychology. We learned that the Empire always wins through brute force and superior numbers. So we developed weapons that make both of those advantages meaningless." Dr. Mills pulled up a holographic display showing the destruction of the Empire fleet. "Gravitational manipulation isn't new science, Captain. Humans theorized about it centuries ago. We just had to figure out how to make it practical." "But the power requirements must be enormous," Kor protested. "How can one world generate that much energy?" "Who said it came from one world?" Stone asked with a slight smile. "Humanity spread across dozens of systems long before your empire found us. Every human colony contributed to Project Hammer. When you attacked Earth, you were facing the combined industrial might of 50 worlds." Kor felt his blood run cold. Empire intelligence had identified only Earth as a human world. If there were dozens of human colonies, each with the same defensive capabilities. "You're beginning to understand," Stone observed. "Your empire made a fundamental error in judgment. You assumed that because we looked primitive, we actually were primitive. You never considered that we might be hiding our true capabilities." "Why?" Kor asked. "Why hide? With technology like yours, you could have built an empire to rival ours." "Because we learned from watching you," Stone replied. "Empires make enemies. They create fear and resentment. Eventually, everyone bands together to destroy them. We chose a different path. Stone stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth hanging in the black sky. Humans spread quietly across the galaxy, Captain. We traded peacefully with other species. We shared knowledge. We made friends instead of enemies. And when the Empire finally noticed us, we were ready. What happens now? Kor asked quietly. Now you're going to help us send a message to your Empire, Stone said, turning back to face him. You're going to tell them exactly what happened here and exactly what will happen if they ever threaten humanity again. They won't believe it. The destruction of an entire invasion fleet in minutes. It sounds impossible. Dr. Mills activated another holographic display, this one showing the complete sensor records from Kor's own ship. They'll have to believe it. We're giving you all the sensor data, all the technical specifications, everything your scientists need to understand what they're facing. You want them to know how you did it. We want them to know that attacking humanity is suicide, Stone said firmly. We want them to understand that we can destroy any fleet they send against us, and that we have the capability to take the fight to them if necessary. Emperor Thane returned to his seat, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that superior technology and overwhelming force could solve any problem. Now they faced an enemy that had made both of those advantages meaningless. Issue new orders to all fleet commanders, he said finally. Human territory is to be avoided. Any ship that encounters human vessels is to withdraw immediately unless attacked first. The council members looked surprised. In the Empire's long history, they had never backed down from any species. Your Majesty, Rex said carefully, this will be seen as weakness by our enemies. Better to appear